G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 19th of April 2026. I apologise for not being able to make a video yesterday. I was sick with the flu. I'm still a bit stuffy, so I apologise if my usual poor enunciation is worse than ever. Now as we look around the map, Russia has and the occasional barking like a sick dog. So Russia's made a lot of attacks with little progress. We have, out of 236 drone attacks, Ukraine has only reported 1, 2, 3, 4. So much for transparency. Alright, so as we look around the map, interrupted by Timu ads, we have some drone attacks here on energy and production facilities up here in the north. Some attacks on the buffer zone on the Russian border. Sorry. Now, it looks like Russia's beginning to make another push for Kupiansk. They're still fighting. Most of these sporadic battles, are just there to keep the Ukrainians bogged down. But Russia's advance alignment is pretty much halted. The Syrsk front is rather quiet. Konstantin Krovnofia, as you can see, is also stalled. So many, there are some advances here and there, but they are not significant. Unfortunately, this war does not yet to be over. There's always talk about this war coming to an end soon, but that soon was free. They've been talking about ending soon for 3 months now. I guess that's why they want Trump bogged down in Iran, is it not? Alright, so there's a little, pardon me, there's a lot of bombing, aerial assaults, Zaporozhye and others, but as I said, there's little advances here or there. Now, yeah, the Ukrainians are reporting advances here, but yeah, it's neither here nor there. Little advances here and there. The Ukrainians are slowly losing territory. The interesting part is they're trying to hold these two bridges, right? The Russians are on the other side. The Russians could and will eventually flank them. Alright, so of course Ukraine makes its usual attacks on Russia. Oops. I've got them. Alright. Russia's new AI gun system. Close quarter defenses are not new. Russia has improved its AI system to track, identify drones. Now, in many cases, these are not manned vehicles, but they are often just basically a mounted 12.7 millimeter. This is to fill the gaps in their air defenses to deal with Ukraine's drone attacks, while they to reduce drone swarms. The only thing that stops a drone swarm is a bullet storm. But as you can see, it's just pretty much a target identification system and tracking, pretty much like you see in an aircraft. It'll lead, have a leading line, so you know where to shoot, at what angle. They do have multiple models, so they have twin 12.7s, 23mm. And a lot of these systems are human operated. And they have target tracking in it, but they all have one thing in common: target tracking and identification against live targets. Shown off at here in a Moscow trade fair. They have various, it turns various weapons, including miniguns and 32mm, turns legacy weapons into precision systems, which Russia, increasing under budget restraints, is turning to legacy systems and improving them to extend battlefield life and because they do have a lot of reserves, right? They do have a lot of equipment in reserve as well. One thing Ukraine doesn't have is population. Now, whether you believe the millions have died and millions more left is up to you. The UK have censored the articles over the report by a left-wing journalist who says Ukraine has been severely depopulated. The bulk of whom have believed to have moved to Russia. The other 7 million to 7 million. Here they say over 4 million. Yeah, it's a bit. 7 is a bit over 4, isn't it? Now, a number of channels have reported allegedly the EU is going to kick out 2 million Ukrainians, return them soon. Zelensky's been asking them for since 2022, but the EU has made it official. They've extended the temporary protection order until March 4th, 2024, after which they will begin an exit strategy, just like a lot of the Syrians. Eventually their patience will wear thin, and even Ukrainians are making short trips back home, so eventually, But as of 2026, the largest number of protected Ukrainians are in Germany, Poland, and Chechnya. Why has that changed? Well, Canada's made them citizens. Unconditionally, apparently. So there's a few that Zelensky won't be able to get his hands on, at least. But, no return question on, short visits are allowed, but some may not be able to return. But Germany, on the other hand, you can't leave Germany unless you tell us where you're going and make sure you come back. If they don't believe you're coming back, they'll keep you. But we're not at war. That's what you think. Meanwhile, Russia, for the last couple of days, has launched over 100 drones. In fact, over 200 drones. And every time Russia launches 103 drones, we shot down 98. Okay, that's good. So 136. Suddenly 203. So no matter how many drones Russia shoots, Ukraine can always keep up. Yeah. It's like we shot 700. It's different if they were drone swarms and they were taken out by electronic warfare, but these are spread out. 18 locations. Even if true, you don't. This is why I said you can't trust Ukraine, because their own maps aren't showing that many drones. Well, then their own maps say. Well, their own maps say for once. Yeah, 203. Yeah, their own maps actually agree for once. The other day they didn't. Now, there's been a shooting in Kiev. Now, most Ukrainian news haven't said where it took place. Now, apparently it took place in a supermarket. Pardon me. Alright, took place in a supermarket. Apparently he set fire to his apartment. Now he set fire to his apartment, left the building with a weapon. I think this is a poor translation. He had previously been prosecuted. For what? Was he previously or not previously? Previously prosecuted. You mean persecuted for being an ethnic Russian? I believe that. Now, had he lived there for a long time? Well, previously he was born in Russia, moved to Ukraine, probably fled Putin like a... There is such a... Before Trump derangement syndrome, there was Putin derangement syndrome. Now, I'm not saying Putin's a good guy either. But what I'm saying is, a lot of Russians who were highly political, did not take Putin's victory very well, did move to Ukraine. Now, he used to live in Bakhmut, but when the Russians came, he fled with everyone else. He did not want to go back to Russia. And if you know anything about Ukraine, he would have been interviewed and constantly under surveillance. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut this short soon. Gosh, I'm about to bust a lung here. Alright. So, there are injuries. People are trying to politicise the attack. We don't know all the details, and we never will. Ukraine's never going to release anything other than the political narrative. The Russians believe this was motivated by anti-Semitism. So, we're never going to get the truth. The man was... the police went in and shot him. You know, there were witnesses who said that the man launched into a rant and was crying, and they just gunned him down. So, we'll never know what was said between them. I doubt they'll ever release the body cam or anything like that. There's no transparency in Ukraine. For all we know, he was surrendered on the floor and they shot him anyway. Now, in the military operation, you often get detailed reports which are not very detailed. So, this is typical for Russian years. In an operation, Battle Group West destroyed 121 drones, 4 mortars, 19 robotic systems, 42 drone control stations, a Starlink terminal, and 2 field munition depots. Now, it may sound like a lot, but, yeah. If it was, you know, this war would be over quickly, but so far, neither side has been able to come up with a drone strategy that is able to launch, what you'd say, the killer drone swarm. And the fear is, particularly in Europe, that if Russia develops the killer drone swarm first, that they'll use it on everyone. No, I think Russia's holding off because they know the consequences of what a killer drone swarm could do for humanity. And particularly, a killer drone swarm is the next nuclear bomb, okay? Once it's let off, you'll never want it let off again. Now, Foreign Minister Lavrov has made comments on Russia's landmines and their patience. They've accused the EU and NATO of pushing Ukraine into using Ukraine. Poor translation. Have accused the EU and NATO of using Ukraine to push the world into a wider conflict and repeatedly crossing Moscow's red lines. This is an attack on Russian hospitals, Russian infrastructure, energy facility, for attacking their ships at sea. Now, because Zelensky will call on halt to attacks on infrastructure, and 6 hours later, you'll hear that Ukraine launched a drone attack on Russia. So there's no trusting Ukraine. Right? Every time they call for a ceasefire, they attack Russia. They're not serious. And they get away with it because the media's on their side. Right? Now, this is the Atala Diplomacy Forum in Turkey. The growing perception in the West that Russia is unable or unwilling to respond to provocations. Now, Russia's not a paper tiger. They're capable of acting. They may not win an invasion of Europe. They may not win against any war against America. But the damage they can inflict makes that war pointless. And the damage that you may inflict on them will be repaid in kind. They are not grateful losers. Now, yes, many people want revenge on Russia for many reasons. Most of them perceived threats rather than realistic threats. People have lived with so much fear in their lives, in old age they've become bitter. And the worst warmonger is an old warmonger because they got nothing to lose. Especially those who've lost their kids or didn't have any. I can't tell which is worse. The ones who've lost their kids in previous wars or the ones who never had kids who just seem to want war because got nothing to look forward to. Well, I can understand people being bitter about losing their kids, but that was your choice. But, I can't speak to every circumstance, but at least you shouldn't become, right, wanting to want others to lose their kids as well. That's, it shouldn't be, like, a lot of the peace movements after World War II was to make sure we didn't have a World War III. So it was a worthwhile gesture. Unfortunately, it turned into a left-wing political gesture, which pretty much still to this day is worse than... Funny how all these people who post-World War II wanted, who wanted this communist utopia are now anti-Russian, pro-China, hate America. It's still the same pattern of... Just a slight shift in pattern in mentality. Oh, Russia's not communist anymore. Must hate Russia, must hate Russia. So the left have a lot of power in the West, and so they want to bring down Russia. Because, again, they can't stand that a non-communist country has success. Oh, you're not one of us, we must hate you mentality. Scratch a liberal, fight a fascist. Now, Russia has accused the West of waging a proxy war for Ukraine, citing NATO's expansion as the key cause of the conflict. Moscow insists that any lasting settlement must address the NATO expansion. And the fact that Ukraine's military alignment with the West and recognition of Russia's borders. Russia and Ukraine have had several rounds of talk. Now, all the sticking points. Recognition of Russia's new borders, Ukraine won't recognise it. Ukraine's military alignment. Ukraine will never return to neutrality. As for NATO expansion, NATO's going to stick its thumb in your nose and laugh in your face until America puts its foot down and says enough's enough. Okay, until America does that, Ukraine is going to find itself continuously a battlefield. This is the new. Orwell warned about this. The new, the endless wars. He warned. Orwell in 1984 warned about endless wars, regime changes, constant propagandizing. War is now. Here we have more Ukraine news with more news about Armand opened fire, seizing a supermarket in Kiev. Attacker began shooting at random before getting himself in a Walmart. Took people hostage. Police said special forces established a corridor. Yeah. How many people were killed when the special forces came to liberate them? You'll never know. But most of the time, they're pretty much on target, so you can't say they were all shot by police, but you see he's a pretty old man. That's a surveillance camera. Oh, there's the Citibank. Born in Moscow, holds Ukrainian citizenship, identified. Faces charges of... Oh, he did assault someone. He has been charged before for assaulting a man in a dispute in 23. Case was dropped after the parties reached settlement. He also claimed to send the pension fund and secured an additional payment of $45, suggesting there was a former serviceman. Okay. Everybody complicates the case when they don't report the truth the first time round. Because eventually it all comes out. Now, Russia has, yesterday, Russia took the town of Zabino in Kharkiv. So they're expanding their buffer zone. And given their weekly report, which is quite a lot of dead Ukrainians, and again, armed forces carried out a massive strike against Ukraine, which we saw the results of that here. Yeah, if you can call that a massive strike, it is big. It's just not massive. So that's the state of the war. Ongoing, probably not going to be settled while Ukraine digs its heels in, while America refuses to call out Ukraine's shenanigans, and while Europe continues to worship self-humiliation. Because the cult of liberalism, we must make as many people as possible love us. And how do I do that? I humiliate myself so that you will all laugh at me and think, The world was not in danger because everyone feared the white man. All your fears created the deadly European. Right? All your attacks. Remember, Europe was not the first to create empires. Europe, after 400 years of attacks, decided to create empires of their own. The world doesn't want to accept responsibility, nor wants to face their own humility and recognise the fact that the whole UN is a big bunch of chumps and failures who just in it for themselves. There's no way you can create a forum of humans and get a different result than schoolyard bullies fighting over the scraps. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Please support the channel. You support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video and bye for now.